I'm Eon, as some of you might know me on DeviantArt, and this is going to be the tip-off video for the Total Drama All-Star vlog series I want to start up. And this is pretty much just going to be speculation and predictions on my part. Well, just about the series in general, just random stuff I want to talk about. I'm probably going to be making several different speculation videos leading up to the actual premiere date, so this video isn't necessarily going to cover my opinions on the character choices for who's actually going to appear in Season 5, but I am going to just sort of start getting my feet wet with this and just start talking about general speculations from what I've seen. For those of you who don't know, the official premiere date is September 13th here in the United States on Cartoon Network. As for premiere dates for other countries, not quite sure what those are as of yet, so sorry about that. And how I even know about this is that just from cursory searches on the internet, there's already official promos, promotional art all over the internet. Heck, last week when I went home to visit, I actually have basic cable there, and like here at the dorms, I saw an ad spot for a new Flash game on Cartoon Network's official site, actually. So it's coming. It's pretty much official. I was initially leery when I saw the premiere date posted on the wiki site, but it's definitely official. Moving beyond that, going off of promotional art, I know that's really not something you should look at to get some sort of standards or speculation about the series from, but something about it just doesn't really add up to me personally. I think this is a point worth bringing up. In one poster, the character Alejandro is still stuck as Total Drama Bot, and then in another, he looks like he did in Total Drama World Tour. There's kind of this disconnect here. I know there's been several rumors going around that he wasn't going to be Total Drama Bot in Season 5, that he was. It's just been kind of a toss-up. It's just kind of been this back and forth as to is he or is he not. I have no clue what's going to happen with that. Personally, I'm kind of wondering if it's something along the lines of he will be Total Drama Bot in the first few episodes, and then a bit later on he'll be back to normal, or what? It'd actually be kind of interesting if that's the route they went with it. Just, he was using it as a ploy for one of his evil schemes. He was tricking everybody into thinking that he was still stuck as Total Drama Bot, but that really wasn't the case. That'd be an extremely interesting way to go. See what would happen if people would start underestimating him, or that would really come in handy for the guy. If he was actually back to top physical performance and such, he was just sort of still masquerading as a robot, he could really do something underhanded. He could really pull the wool over somebody's eyes with a tactic like that. Speaking of weird arrangements or disconnect between what happened to the character in the series and the promotional art, there's a similar case with Scott. For those of you who have seen the end of Season 4, you know what happened to him, and yet in the promotional art he's pretty much back to normal, which I'm not upset about personally. I may not be a fan of said character, but I don't think he deserved what he got. I just don't. That aside, it's just, is he going to look much different from he did in the promotional artwork when the actual season premieres? Is he going to be up and running? And I think those are relevant points to bring up, as in what's going to happen with those two characters. They suffered some pretty severe injuries over the course of the series, and now they look like they're back to normal. What's the actual status quo with these characters? That's going to be something interesting to see when the actual show comes out. I'm just, for now, all I can really do is speculate. It might say something about it in the episode descriptions or summaries. I'll admit I haven't really looked at those quite yet, but I will soon, and when I do, I'll probably make another video in regards to those. But for the meantime, yeah, that's food for thought, isn't it? That's definitely something relevant to bring up. Another thing, you have both Lightning and Cameron in the same season again. Why is Cameron back in the character toss-up? He, depending on what canon you're going with, he technically won last season. But, and why I bring up Cameron coming back into the picture at all is that of all the total drama characters, you could argue that he's had what's closest to character development. In other words, he had the closest you can get to a definitive character arc with total drama characters. He went from being sort of a shy, kind of timid bubble boy to being okay with being in his skin, fairly confident, using his abilities to the best of his advantage. He had definitive character development, and it's just when I'm seeing him there in the promotional art, knowing he's going to be in another season, I can't help subliminally thinking, run! You're the one character that actually had anything decent to him happen on the show. Run before you have character, before your character gets mangled like most characters have gone through in Season 2 and Season 3. Run before that happens to you. It's just, I'm really dreading what's going to happen to this character with Season 5, simply because of that particular factor. Just really think about it. And then, Lightning. Like most fans, I don't understand why he's there. There's no reason for him to be there. And even though, personally, I really like the showdown between him and Cameron in the Season 4 finale, there is no reason for him to return. I'll just outright admit it. It would have been much more interesting to see Cameron face off with Scott. It was obvious that Scott was the big villain for Season 4. He was arguably the most ferocious character. Heck, you could even argue that in some respects. He's a much more intimidating villain than either Heather or Alejandro, which are considered some of the top dog villains themselves. He easily compares to that little ring of villains, you could say, would be the worst for any of the characters to get involved or tangled with. Yet, the final showdown was with Lightning. And now he's back. It's obvious what's going to happen with this character. He's going to be there for a couple of stock kind of jokes, just there in the background. Heck, he's probably going to be the first voted off. He's probably just there to fill in the role that Ezekiel did last season. And even in Season 1. He's just going to be the first one to be booted off, since there's so many other characters that they'd want to keep in there longer, because, let's face it, most of the characters that are in the toss-up for Season 5, they'd be fairly easy to write for. There's a lot of romantic tension and crap that you can build up and have going on in the background. They want to keep those characters around, definitely, and it'd be more than easy to boot Lightning off in the first episode. Another thing, actually, speaking of characters and the romantic subplots and stuff, that's another thing I'm really dreading. I am really dreading whatever love triangles and love octagons are going to be bringing in with this season. It's definitely going to happen because they have all the major players involved that this would happen with. Courtney's back, Duncan's back, Gwen's back, Alejandro, Heather. There's going to be a love octagon again. It's getting flashbacks of Season 3 and world tour here with this selection of characters. These should have been the ones that should have been pushed off to the side. Just leave them alone. Just leave these characters alone. Season 3 was bad enough. You don't need to bring them back. I mean, what are you gonna do with them in Season 5? What are they going to do? I will argue that it is interesting, the thought of these guys teaming up and then having the good guy characters facing off with them. That element would be interesting to watch. Personally, these characters are at their best when they're actually facing off in competitions. Personally, despite the fact that I don't really want Cameron to be there again, it'd be interesting to see how he'd face off against one of the worst villains, i.e. Scott, Alejandro, Heather. And what would happen if they did team up? What would happen if Cameron had to be the brains of the outfit and had to help everybody else figure out how to topple them? Unless there's going to be a team up with the villains, even if it's short enough, that would be the only reason to have them there. Have them team up long enough to be some sort of force to be reckoned with. A really intimidating, ferocious force. These guys could really work together and be a nasty force if the sexual tension and romantic subplots didn't pop up. But we've all seen all 4 seasons. We've seen what's happened up until now. There's gonna be love triangles. There's gonna be squares. The crap with the Duncan, Courtney, and Gwen is gonna be dredged up again. And then Courtney's going to... Heck, even the promotional art shows that Courtney and Heather are going to be at each other's throats this season. And it's just... what's the point? What's the point? You already have your romance for this season. Even though Mike and Zoe are flatter than cardboard, you already have your romance for this season with these two. Just have a couple of fluff moments with them on the screen and you've got sufficient romance for the season. These other guys, don't have them going at each other because of romantic tension. Have them team up. I'd say that's a saving grace for having some of these characters return. Have them team up and work with each other. That's what the crux of the whole heroes versus villains thing should amount to. That's what would really make the season worth watching. Seeing the most ferocious villains team up with each other and face off against really well-defined hero characters. But the thing is, I'll just outright admit it, I am kind of pleased with some of the villain choices, only I kind of wish a few weren't there. But as for the quote-unquote good guys, where's Eva? Where's Joe? Out of all the characters you could really pick for a lineup like this that'd be extremely interesting, I would have loved to see Joe make a return. Both Joe and Eva. Would they be at each other's throats? Would they be on opposite teams? Heck, what if you could argue that either one could be on either side of the fence? It'd be interesting to see those two facing off against each other. And if Joe were there, she'd easily be team leader of either one. You could argue that they might even be on the same side, since Joe, she's pretty self-serving and self-interested. So yeah, she'd probably be considered a villain. Personally, I would have preferred to see Joe instead of the Lightning. She'd make a really interesting addition. How would she interact with all the other villain characters? Heck, she'd probably be at the two girls' throats. It'd be much more interesting to see her sort of quabbling and squibbling with Heather and Courtney, rather than those two just going at it over misplaced romantic stuff or anything like that. Well, I think this video is getting a bit too long, so I'm gonna crop it off right here. I am going to make another one, and I'm going to be prattling off speculations and arguments or my own thoughts about the current lineup and what's going to happen in Season 5. It's going to be something similar to this one, and probably close to the similar length since I like babbling about it. that's pretty much it for the very first Total Drama All-Stars vlog. Stay tuned, I plan on uploading more soon.